You know what I like about Uncle Bob Martin when he gives presentations? He never starts on topic. He meanders around the stage. He talks about the lights. He talks about water, physics. And then after about 15 minutes, he says, "Oh, yeah, I guess I should actually talk about what they're paying me to be at this conference to talk about." And he goes into his thing. I think we just lost something with that. We've tried to control people so much and what they say and where they say it and how they say it. And did the committee approve it? Did it get all the right signatures on it before it was shipped into production? And you know what? Take a look at Midnight Gospel on Netflix. Because even if you don't like the show, there's an appreciation for just seeing a team of people being given totally unfettered creative control, certainly final cut approval over their product, and just people getting the fuck out of their way and letting them work on what they want to work on. The intrinsic motivation that people have for autonomy, mastery, we are constraining all that when we try to say, well, it's got to be reflected in the metrics. I need to see it on the business report. Let me show you something. I bought a new standing desk here. The brochure that came with it on every computer screen in here has some kind of chart, data visualization. There was a real good one in here. Here's one you can kind of see. They're looking at charts and graphs. There's one guy looking at a spreadsheet, and that's it. I mean, that's every picture in here, and it's like we're starting to attach sort of some kind of religious significance into data visualizations and bar charts and pie charts, and it's bizarre. It's like all these things were supposed to be there to supplement and add to a decision means, not just be an ends that you use to come back to. And there's a great book I was watching the book tour from this guy, Jerry something, but it's called The Tyranny of Metrics. And that's what we've done. We've browbeaten people with performance metrics, and it's just pretty silly. So, in fact, I've got several notes here. One of the things it does is it actually creates a lot of anxiety, and that becomes sort of this background mood music to your working life. Is like it's not enough to ship the product or fix the bug and commit it into the master branch. It's like, oh, I gotta, put my time I spent on the ticket. I gotta make sure I got approvals from this person before I close the issue and make sure that they read it. I got to go update Confluence and make sure that the documentation says that this issue has been resolved, and I got to cross it out. It's like, this is all bullshit. There's something to be said about getting something across the finish line and then focusing on, that success and celebrating that instead of all these. And I mean, I understand middle management is panicked under the COVID-19 because they'll probably be the first ones to go. And they're going to try to justify their jobs any single way that they can. In fact, I'm working more hours now under the work from home pandemic than I did when I was at the office. So, and part of it is, email and all these administrivia tasks that I have to do. But yeah, waste, waste, rework, communication waste, stuff that I did 6 months ago. People are asking me if I did it. So dumb. All right. So, uh, I was thinking about myths. And, one of the myths that we kind of live by here is just as soon as the pandemic's over, we'll get back to normal. Just as soon as we ship this product, we're going to make all kinds of money. And people are just going to flock in off the streets. And just as soon as the marketing department sends that blast out, boy, we're going to be rolling then. Just as soon as all day long. And it's interesting to look back at. You just try to think about myths in other cultures, and I was going back to Kokopelli, and it's really interesting when you get into the phallic Kokopelli versus now what we have as the castrated imagery of him hunched over playing the flute, and just the way that commerce has come in and put him on skateboards and surfboards and got him doing every activity you can imagine. I mean, it's so far from the trickster mythology that was created. I think it was the Hopi Indians, um, but it might be another Native American tribe. But it's just interesting when a culture of people create sort of a trickster god. And that's really what I was kind of thinking about, and what that entails to collectively say, okay, we need to actually have a character that represents being a sort of trickster. So I did that. I read about that for a while I was on my vacation, and then I went back and I read Saul of Tarsus's conversion to Saint Paul. It's pretty short. It's in the book of Acts. Saul of Tarsus was not supportive of the Christians. Then he goes on his road to Damascus, and God tells him Jesus is his savior now, and he becomes St. Paul, and St. Paul is one of their biggest spreaders of Christianity. And so that's this huge dynamic jump from someone that's opposed to something and then what it takes to kind of engage them. And I think we're struggling with that a lot in our culture and in our workplaces. And that's where I'm back to, there's a real clash that I see between the extrinsically uh, calculable metrics that can be put on paper, dollars, percent complete, and then all these intrinsic motivators that we have as people. And we're just not given a lot of free time to, I think, explore or work on that. So, I'm taking my vacation off to program. I'll post some more fun links about that later. Um, Here's a little note that I had, and you know what? I bought Bob Martin's new book. It's called Clean Agile, Back to Basics. Like, just the title alone, you're just like, thank God somebody wrote this book, and it's somebody who actually wrote the Agile Manifesto and signed it, because boy, we've got a whole prescribed ideology now behind Agile with this really vague epistemology of how we actually know that it helps businesses communicate with technical people. And then there's the whole empirical means by which you have to measure story points and completions and sprints. And it's, they'll tell you themselves the money changers are in the temple. There's a lot of people that are not programmers that are in the Agile movement, and you can look at the Agile conference. I mean, the programmers are gone. There's not really any technical tracks left. So it's pretty interesting since it started from programmers, but they kind of left the movement. All right, what's going to change? Well, I think the days of I just blank are gone. I just write SQL code. I just manage projects. I think that's going to go away, and there's going to be people who, like competent individuals on teams that can manage the project and do the work. I don't necessarily understand why that was ever totally split to begin with, but I'm seeing, like, when I bring up the Midnight Gospel example, you can see the team of people and what they're able to do. And, like, they're not practicing Agile. They're not delivering things in sprints. They have deadlines. They meet the deadlines. They ship their product. They polish it up in post-production. And that's it. And then they cash the check. So uh, this, I think that's going to change. I'm going through this experience now where it's like, tell me everything that you do, and then I'll make the decision about what you're going to work on. And I can totally meet that objective. That's the thing that's really funny to me is that's an easy target, and I will hit all the measurements, no problem. I get all my stuff in on time. I keep a little log what I do every day when I change tasks, and then I write that up and I send it off at the end of the day. And it doesn't matter to me. It's not like the work ever went away. That's the thing that's so funny to me. It's not like I'm making things up or that this is going to change whether I write it down or not. Like this is just a factual sort of report, and I write down, when people call me and for how long I talk on the phone, and um, it's like I'll meet all the goals, right? I will meet all the objectives, but in the big picture, it puts us so far behind the eight ball. It's not even funny. It's like people forget. It's like other companies are not doing that. You can play by those kinds of rules and ask people to do that. And it would be if everyone else kind of did that at organizations and spent all this time doing that and put people through the ringer and but other places aren't going to do that, and your competition's not going to do that. And so it's funny whenever all of a sudden this really low key, fast moving player starts to overtake the big dominant orgs that are so it's not calcified, but uh, they're so ingrained in the way that they just operate with projects. And well, do we get a can't go through without Bob's approval on that. And if Bob's on vacation, can't go out. Gotta wait 2 weeks for him to come back. It's like, oh no, no, no. The competition is not going to do that, and so organizations are going to have to change. Um, and I wrote down here these hierarchies breed a bunch of know-it-alls anyway. So last thing I read, really great article on. It was written by people at Burning Man, and it's just about culture building and how culture building is not a passive activity, and that you have to be engaged in what you want to create. And so that's really why I'm making this video, is to create the world that I want to see be what it can be, and people to be who they want to be, not are forced to be. And if I do some good work there, it will have been worth it. Thanks.